Welcome to Garden Plants with Jim Putnam. Let's talk Goshiki Osmanthus. This is Osmanthus heterophyllus Goshiki, or Goshiki false holly. The reason these are called false hollies is because the leaves look like hollies. They look very spiny like hollies, but interestingly, I can just kind of grab the thing and it doesn't hurt. The oldest leaves down in the middle will develop a little bit of a spike, but nothing like hollies at all. This one is an amazing plant. It's Goshiki is Japanese for 5 colors. This thing is constantly evolving in color during the growing season. It will leaf out with kind of a reddish hue to it, pinkish reddish hue to it in the spring. And then as those leaves mature, they'll gain some green in them. The off-white or white color will show up in it in the variegation, and then eventually they'll settle into a dark green and kind of a mottled off-white color. So it's just constantly evolving. These are evergreen and look fantastic, 12 months out of the year. Just a great ornamental plant that's always showing off. So the height on these Goshiki Osmanthus is interesting. You could keep this plant probably 3 feet in height by 3 feet in width almost permanently. It's not a fast growing plant. The tags will probably say 3 to 5 feet by 3 to 4 feet in width, something like that. There's one over at the J.C. Ralston Arboretum that's at least 6.5 to 7 feet tall. So there's no off switch for it. The plant wasn't told, how tall it was supposed to get. It will continue to grow, but it is pretty slow growing. That one at the Ralston is probably very old. It'll take 10 years to get one of these up to head height, almost certainly. The flowers are interesting as well, because this is a plant that I've really never seen flower in a nursery setting. I grew these for a long, long time, and it takes several years for them to flower. Some of the other Osmanthus tend to flower in juvenility a little more. These take several years. I didn't even know they flowered after having, I knew they flowered, but I'd never really seen them after having grown them for a long time until I saw the one at the Ralston. It had been in the ground for a period of time. Once they are, though, they flower heavily. Osmanthus tend to flower with kind of insignificant flowers down on the stems, but they're incredibly fragrant. And I remember the first time I saw the one over at the Ralston, the bees were just absolutely covering all of those flowers, which was pretty amazing. These tend to bloom more summertime rather than like the Osmanthus fragrans, which bloom in the cooler times in the fall and early spring. Goshiki is hardy in zones 6 to 9. Some people say zone 10. I don't really know for sure if that's the case. If you're in zone 10 and you have a Goshiki Osmanthus, let us know. I think it does probably need a bit of winter chill on it. Probably needs some dormancy. These are going to be listed for sun or part shade, and I think that's probably true in zone 6 and 7. As you get toward into zone 8 and 9, probably would appreciate some afternoon shade. So keep that in mind. The best ones I ever see out in the landscape are going to be, they're going to get 5-6 hours of direct sun and then have some shade at some point during the day. That seems to really be the thing that keeps them looking the freshest all season long. These will make a great low border hedge. If you're in zone 6, I would be careful not to have it out in the open space with some wind during the winter. A lot of these leafy evergreens don't hold up that well in really cold spaces where the wind is blowing across them all winter long. Of course, it's a great accent plant. It's, as a single plant, it's a great in any kind of mass planting. And of course, a specimen, just as a single specimen or in a container in the warmer zones as well. One other use in the landscape would be as a low hedge in front of other screening plants. So if you had some sort of taller screening plant like these Emerald Arborvitae are back here behind us, or some leafy evergreen, larger growing thing, this is a great pop of color directly in front of it. It definitely won't outpace those things. It'll end up staying smaller than whatever that backdrop is. These are very tolerant of different soil types, alkaline soils, acid soils, clay soils, sandy soils. Really very easy plant. Once just moist, well-drained conditions, like so many plants that people talk about. It's not that it wants to be dry all the time, but it can't sit in water. So keep that in mind. These become pretty drought tolerant in time. This is one of those plants, I think, that once you're 2-3 years in, as long as you get regular rainfall, You won't have to put any additional water on these once they're established, unless you go some prolonged period of time during the summertime. And then when you water it, thoroughly saturate it and then let it dry out between rains and waterings. So these just have a kind of a natural upright pyramid shape. So that if you, this is what I would think about with this plant when you're planting it. If you're planting it somewhere where you're going to try to have to keep it as a little round ball, it's not really the way it wants to grow. Put it someplace where you can allow it to take this pyramidal shape, and you really won't have to ever do any pruning on it, really. You can do, once it flushes out in the spring, you can do a little bit of tip pruning on it if you want to, if you've got limbs that are sticking out here or there. And that will keep, you know, fill in these spaces maybe where it's a little, you know, where you've got some gaps in it. But they grow pretty tight and compact all on their own, again, with this pyramidal shape. We fertilize everything in our garden with a organic fertilizer in the late winter, and that's pretty much all you would need with these. Keep the weeds away from it, keep the, you know, keep it well mulched, keep the moisture even. A lot of people use Osmanthus in their landscapes if they have deer issues. They tend to avoid. Again, when you have deer issues, fragrant plants with fragrant flowers, fragrant foliage, spike, you know, those are things that the deer tend to avoid, because if it's fragrant to us, it's really fragrant to them. But this is just one of the great landscape ornamental plants that can give you a pop of color. It's always doing something interesting. It's evergreen, has a lot going for it. This is Goshiki Osmanthus.